section and ask colleagues to do the same. Jock and Vow, thank you, Gareth.
Is there a seconder for that? Okay, so I think we have 3 seconders. Thank you all. I see. So, Councillor Sunderland, you'd indicated first.
Yeah, I'd formally like to second Dylan's nomination, and I agree with everything Mark has said. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Before I call speakers, are there any other nominations? No. Okay. Did anybody else wish to speak in relation to the issue? No. Okay, so we'll go to a vote. All those in favour, please. Are there any against? Councillor Sunderland, you still have your hand up. You voted both for and against. Are there any against?
Automatic AI, I'm afraid. Yeah.
No. So, congratulations, Councillor Rees. You are elected chair. Thank you, everybody. I will hand over the chair to yourself.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Mark, for your kind comments. I really do appreciate sort of the trust, and the confidence that you've placed in me once more. And then obviously this will be my final year as chair of the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority, and it's a great honour. And I really, as I say, appreciate support, and I will, to the best of my endeavours, best of my abilities, seek to serve you, my fellow members, and communities of North Wales over the next 12 months. So, cracking on to item 2 on the agenda, which is apologies. I'm not sure, is it Fionn that's providing the admin support today? Fionn, any apologies?
From Councillor Carol Beard and from Councillor Paul Rogers.
And Councillor Sian Williams, I know that you've got your hand up because I think you need to leave early today.
I do, yes, I do, for another meeting at 10:15. So
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. And Councillor Chrissy G.
I have to leave early as well for another meeting.
And Councillor Dale Sylvester.
Thanks, Chair. It's not an apology for the meeting, it's an apology for my camera. I've tried everything possible to get my camera working, and I've left the meeting, come back in, and the camera will not work. So if any voting, it'll have to be by hand, I'm afraid.
That's fine. Thanks for letting us know.
Okay,
and Councillor Rhonda Roberts.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have sent an email to yourself this morning. I'm having to leave early. My wife can't drive. She's got to go and see about the cast on her arm to the hospital. I'm awfully sorry.
Yeah, no, I saw the email. Thanks for confirming that. So I can't see any other hands being raised. So we'll move on to item 3 in the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from anyone, please? I can't see any hands being raised, so that doesn't apply. So we go on to item number 4, which is the appointment of the deputy chair for the coming year. Can I receive nominations, please? Councillor Afwyn Harold Roberts. Afwyn?
Helo, bore da. Dwi'n cynnig y cynghorydd Mark Young sydd bod yn is-gadeirydd gwych i chi, Mr Gadeirydd, yn y blwyddyn dwytha, a dwi'n cynnig Mr Mark Young. Cynghorydd Mark Young.
Diolch yn fawr. Do we have a seconder, please? A number of hands being raised again. I think Councillor Gareth Sandilands was out of the blocks again to get second. Are you seconding the proposal, Gareth?
I am seconding the proposal. I'm confident he will work closely with you. He's supported you over the last 12 months well, and he's experience and dedication make him well suited for this role. So I'm seconding him. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I can't see any. So in that case, will you please vote to show that you agree with the appointment of the deputy chair? Are there any against? No, that's unanimously passed. It would have been inappropriate for me to have commented until you'd voted, but I do very much appreciate the support and the commitment of the deputy chair. And it's great to be continuing to work with you, Mark, over the next 12 months. I think we make a good team. So, diolch yn fawr. So we go on to the item number 5, the appointment of the chair of the audit committee for the next year. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Tina Clayton.
Yes, can I propose Gareth Sandilands, please?
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Mark Young.
Yeah, I'll second that, please, Jochen Brown. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? I can't see any other hands being raised. Will you show that you all agree with the appointments? Congratulations, Gareth. You are continuing as the chair of the audit committee. So we move on to item 6, which is the appointment of the deputy chair of the audit committee. Can I have this, please? Gareth?
Yeah, can I propose Councillor Tina Claydon? Thank you.
And do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Jeff Evans? Are there any other nominations? I can't see any hands being raised. Will you show that you agree with the nomination, please? Any against? Councillor Dale Sylvester, you got your hand raised. Was no, gone down. No, it's unanimous, Tina. Congratulations. So we now move on to item number 7, which is notice of urgent matters. I haven't received any notice of urgent matters, so that does not apply. So we move on to number 8, membership of the Fire and Rescue Authority, incorporating appointments to committees and external bodies. And Gareth, I think that's back to you. Sorry, Councillor Jeff Evans, I can see that you've got your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. It was going back to urgent matters. Before we go on to the agenda of the day, I think, and I want it noted, the appreciation of the public for the sterling work that has been carried out over the last week in relation to mountain fires.
Councillor Evans, so I thoroughly agree with what you're saying, but I want it to be recorded in the next meeting, because we are going to cover wildfires, and because this meeting's being recorded, I think it'd be even more appropriate for you to feed in your positive comments then, because this is the AM and it's to do with sort of the election of officials. So if you can hold fire until the next part at the beginning of the next meeting, and then I'll invite you to feed those comments in, please. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. So we will continue now with item 8, and I think, Gareth, it's back to you.
Members will be very familiar with this, with the bulk of this report being to note membership. Chair, you've already noted that we have a new member, Councillor Sian Williams, or Sir Gwynedd, and this is, I believe, her first meeting. As well as confirming the membership and the division and appointments to the panels, which I think people would, and committee, which people would be well familiar with, I'd just like to talk, if I can, Chair, briefly about the Standards Committee. Our Standards Committee consists of 6 members. Those are 4 independent members who are co-opted onto the authority. They're recruited, and you will recall that we made an appointment at the last meeting of David Davis to one of those positions. We still have a vacancy, and so we need to re-advertise. In addition to the vacancy, 2 members will leave office next year, and their term because they're in their second term of office, their term of office won't be able to be extended any further. Now, we have some leeway or headroom in the size of the committee, Chair. We can have a maximum of 9 members. We only have 6. The suggestion is that, subject to receiving a suitable number of applications, we appoint 2 extra independent members to the Standards Committee for a period of a year to save the time, resources, and expense of recruiting again, because you will see even the advertising costs alone are £5,000 advertising across the whole of North Wales, whereas it costs £840 or thereabouts to have 2 members for an extra 2 meetings, which is how often the Standards Committee meets. Add to that the officer time, the member time in coming together to shortlist and interview, and I would hope the authority would agree it makes sense, whilst we have this opportunity, to recruit the 2 extra members now. We have a precedent for doing this. One of the current members, Gareth Pritchard, himself was appointed in this way all those years ago, about nearly 10 years ago now, when we had a couple of very good candidates, but only one vacancy at the time. And then it was one of the independents at that time, Tony Young, who pointed out that he was shortly due to leave office and it would make sense to take on the extra person. So, Chair, hopefully it makes good sense. And as I say, we have a precedent. So, Chair, the recommendations are at page 5 of the report, I believe. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments in relation to the clerk's input? No. Can I have somebody to propose we accept the recommendations of the clerk then in that case? Thank you, Councillor Jeff Evans. Thank you, Councillor Mark Young. Will you all show that you're in agreement? That's been unanimously passed. Diolch, Gareth. So we're on to item number 9, which is the meeting dates for 2026-27. I think it's back to yourself again, Diolch.
It is, I'm afraid, Chair. Almost all the reports in this meeting are mine, I'm afraid. So, as usual, members will know what to expect here. Meetings take place for the Executive Panel and the Audit Committee on the same days, morning and afternoon. And then we have a series of meetings scheduled for the full authority. We can't, because of the sheer number of authorities involved and the number of meetings involved, guarantee that there won't be any clash for Audit Committee and Executive Panel meetings, but we have tried to avoid clashes in relation to the full authority meetings, and the councils regularly promise that they won't set any meetings up in conflict with our full authority meetings, so that you as members don't feel any clash of responsibilities with your constituent councils. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Are there any questions or comments? No. Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen.
Ie, jyst i wneud y pwynt, a dwi'n ddiolchgar i Gareth am hyn, ond jyst i wneud y pwynt, mae yn anodd weithiau yn dydd i prif gyngor im yn cyfarfod yr un diwrnod, ond da ni wedi cael esiampl o gyngor Brys yn cael ei alw, da ni wedi cael esiampl o Pwyllgora ar yr un diwrnod, a mae rhywun wedyn yn gorfod jyglo pa un ddylswn ni fynd iddo fo, a ddylswn ni fynd i'r hwn efo'r cyngor, a ddylswn ni fynd i hwn efo'r awdurdod tân, a mae'n anodd, ond fel nôl swyddogion y cyngor, mae'n amhosib i nhw i wneud bob un felly de. Ac mae wedi bod yn ffrae rhwng fi a nhw oherwydd bod o'n nhw yn neu siŵr bod nhw'n mynd yn gwrthdaro efo cyfarfodydd y parc, ond rwan maen nhw'n dweud bod nhw neu siŵr nad ydyn nhw'n gwrthdaro efo'r tân hefyd yn gwyn i weld. Diolch.
Diolch, Gwynfor, am dy sylwadau. Are there any other comments or questions? Your hand's been raised, so will you, can I have a proposal that we accept the meeting dates as set out in the report? Thank you, Councillor Jeff Evans. Diolch, Gwynfor. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed, so we move on to item 10, which is the Members' Remuneration Scheme. Diolch, Gareth.
Thank you, Chair. Again, quite a familiar report for members. The Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru has set the rates of pay for authority members for the coming 12 months. As always, that is subject to a caveat that members who receive a cabinet allowance from their constituent authority can't claim a fire authority allowance. So, Chair, the report publishes the rates for the coming 12 months. We're also obliged, Chair, to report on what we have paid to people over the last 12 months, and so that is attached to the schedule. And Chair, lastly, the report asks for permission to update the schedule of what we will pay over the coming 12 months, should there be any changes in membership. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair. Oh, and Chair, what I would note is that in the next meeting, I have asked you for an urgent item on remuneration because we will be discussing rates of pay for the new authority after the elections in May 27.
Diolch, Gareth. Any questions or comments from members? I can't see any hands being raised. In that case, can I ask for a proposer and seconder? Thank you, Charlie. Seconder? Thank you, Gareth. Will you all show that you approve report? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. So there isn't any urgent matters in this part of the meeting. So item 11 doesn't apply and there's no part 2. So that concludes the AGM. So we will now move on to the normal quarterly meeting of the Fire Authority. So item number 1, apologies again. If I may just confirm the situation with apologies, please, Fionn.
Yes, of course. We have apologies from Councillor Carol Beard, Councillor Paul Rogers. We have been notified that Councillor Sian Williams, Chrissy Gee and Councillor Rhonda Roberts will need to leave early.
Thank you very much. And in this meeting, can I formally, as the chair, welcome Sian to her first full Fire Authority meeting. Croeso Sian, mae'n braf I cael chi ymuno efo ni. And can I also take the opportunity to congratulate former member of the Fire Authority, Mark Jones, who's been elected to the Senedd since the last meeting that we held. Councillor Paul Cunningham, I can see that your hand is raised.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. I can't seem to get a picture up of myself, and I've got a terrible echo.
Okay, noted, but it's good to have you with us, Paul. Cynghorydd Owen?
Diolch yn fawr, a dim bosib hefyd I ni ddiolch I Cynghorydd Gareth Roberts am I wasanaeth.
Yep, yn sicr, diolch yn fawr I Cynghorydd Gareth Roberts, so ddim gyda ni rwan. Any other comments? No, I can't see any hands being raised. So item 2, declaration of interest. Any declarations of interest? No, I can't see many hands being raised. So we move on to item number 3, which is notice of urgent matters. And I'm going to invite the Chief Fire Officer to give a statement on the situation on wildfires. And after she's given her statement, Councillor Jeff Evans will have the first opportunity to respond. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr. Members will be aware that since the early hours of the 12th of July, we have been responding to a number of significant wildfire incidents across North Wales. A major incident was declared during the Conway mountain fire because of the number of simultaneous incidents that were going on at the same time and the significant demand on operational resources. That major incident was stood down at 5 o'clock on the Monday, but crews have continued to deal with wildfire activity across the region. The most significant ongoing incident is near to Harlock. A tactical coordination group was re-established and has continued to coordinate the multi-agency response there. The fire has developed through the week as temperature increased and wind conditions changed. And it's estimated that approximately 2,000 acres have been affected, with a fire front of around 2 kilometres. Operationally, crews have been using natural fire breaks and creating additional fire breaks to contain the spread. A significant proportion of the effective area is inaccessible by either vehicle or foot, and that makes firefighting particularly challenging. The fire is also approaching forestry areas, and that's being closely monitored. And we have worked with Natural Resources Wales to bring in heavy machinery onto the site to cut fire breaks to help control the spread. Multiple crews remain in attendance and expect to be committed there for some time. Local roads have been closed to support emergency response activity, and crews are maintaining contact with nearby properties. The service has requested aerial support through Natural Resources Wales. This request has been approved, and helicopter support is expected during this week. This is because of delays caused by the demand from wildfires across the whole of the UK. Military assistance through the Military Aid to Civil Authorities arrangements have been considered at the Tactical Coordination Group. However, there is currently no military capability available that could support our wildfire operations. The incident continues to be managed through specialist wildfire resources and partner agency support, and we continue to review the situation. I believe there's been considerable public and media interest relating to a privately arranged helicopter operating near the Harlock site, and I need to state that neither North Wales Fire and Rescue Service nor Natural Resources Wales were involved or aware in that operation before it arrived. Alongside these incidents, we have been responding to a number of other emergencies, both domestic and industrial. And as the temperatures continue to be high, we have also had a number of water rescue incidents. Chair, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks to our firefighters, control firefighters, support teams and partner agencies who've worked tirelessly through this period of sustained operational activity. Despite the significant demands placed on the service at this time, we continue to respond effectively to emergencies across North Wales whilst maintaining public safety and supporting the communities affected. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Chief, for that update. Councillor Jeff Evans?
Sorry,
Sorry?
You went on.
Yeah, Councillor Jeff Evans, you're on.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I just endorse that which the Chief has just related to? This has been an extremely difficult time right across the country, and wildfires have been quite significant across North Wales, be it Conwy, Arach, and in my area, Holyhead in particular, which has put a lot of fear and worry for members of the community. But I want to indicate and highlight the public appreciation, as has been spoken and related to on the social media internet. Comments have included the sterling professional manner that the firefighters and crews have addressed the fires, safeguarding homes and the community at large. The response from the public has been so appreciative. I would like all the firefighters' crews to know that they are appreciated so much and thank them so well for the sterling work as has been carried out. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Fel y cynghorydd sydd lle mae'r tân yn y wardiau mewn gwirionedd yn Cwm Bychan ac ar y Rheinogydd. Gai na hefyd yn y lle cyntaf ddiolch o galon i'r holl weithwyr tân sydd yna yn wneud y gwaith aruthrol o galad yma. Mae'r gefnogaeth i'r gweithwyr gan y gymuned yn aruthrol a maen nhw tu hwnt o ddiolchgar i'r gweithwyr. Dwi wedi cael yn yr orsaf yn Harlach i ddiolch yn bersonol lly, ond dwi yn fedai'n pwysleisio digon o diolch sydd gan y gymuned i'r gweithwyr am eu holl waith felly. Fodd bynnag, mae gynnau gwestiynau, a di'r cwestiynau yma ddim yn erbyn yr gwasanaeth tân o gwbl. Mae gwaith mae gwasanaeth tân wedi wneud yn arbennig, felly mae'n gwestiynau fi tu hwnt y lle be mae'r gwasanaeth tân yn gallu gwneud ei hunan, ond fyswn i'n licio clywed chydig o atebion am hynny. Rwan, mae yna dipyn o ffermwyr, a dwi'n mynd dweud am eiliad na dyna beth yw'r achos yn fama, ond mae yna dipyn o ffermwyr yn dweud yr rheswm da ni'n cael rhai o'r tanau gwyllt yma ydy oherwydd polisia cyfoeth naturiol Cymru sydd wedi bod yn rhwystro ffermwyr i ymdrin ar ardal y naturiol fel oedden nhw'n wneud am flynyddoedd. ac felly bod hynny wedyn yn neud hi'n haws i'r tana yma ehangu felly. Sgynnai'm syniad os di hynny wir, ond mae yna nifer o ffermwyr, a dwi'n pwysleisio dim y ffermwyr yn yr ardal yma, mae yna nifer o ffermwyr wedi deud hynny wrtha fi, a bod hi'n ella'n bryd i Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru ail-edrych ar eu polisia oherwydd maen nhw yn deud bod nhw'n poeni am y bywyd gwyll a bethau felly, a dyna pam da ni'n cael hyn, ond os yw hynny wedyn yn arwain i'r tana gwyll, mae o'n neud y polisi yno yn ddiwerth. Wedyn symud ymlaen at hofrennydd Cyfoeth Naturiol. Wan, dwi'n siŵr os dwi'n iawn i feddwl na hofrennydd Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru ydy hon. Ond eto, mae Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru yn deud bod yr hofrennydd yn cael... Mae'r chief yn ysgwyd i ffend yn dwi'n cymryd bod hynna ddim yn wir, felly wedyn diolch yn fawr am hynna, chief. Da chi'n gorfod deud rhywbeth weithiau i fi, ond diolch yn fawr. Wedyn, ond symud ymlaen wedyn i'r fyddin ac hefyd mae'n amlwg na sgynnyn nhw ddim o'r gallu i helpu ar y funud. Felly mae hynny'n drist, ond dwi yn meddwl bod rhaid edrych am fysa hyn yn gorfod dŵad trwy bwysa gan yr awdurdod tân. Mae hwn yn wbath cenedlaethol ar lefel Brydeinig, lle ddylsa yr Llywodraeth Brydeinig mewn gwirionedd fod yn trin y mater fel argyfwng, ac lle mae yna bobl a tai ac bob math o bethau yn cael ei roid ar risg oherwydd y tana yma. A mi ddylsa'r Llywodraeth Canolog fod yn gallu ymatab yn llawer gwell. Mi ddylsa'r Llywodraeth Canolog fod yn gallu darparu cymorth ar alw bron i bobl sydd yn i lefydd sydd yn diodda o hyn. A felly fyswn i yn gofyn os ydy'n bosib, a mae'n bosib bod hyn yn digwydd yn barod wrth gwrs, ond os ydy'n bosib i'r awdurdodau tân ddod at ei gilydd ac gallu cael Llywodraeth Canolog i gymryd diddordeb yn hyn ac i drio sicrhau bod nhw'n gallu ymatab i argyfyngau fel ma'n y dyfodol. Achos peth rhaid ni gofio ydy, mae hwn wrth gwrs yn mynd i ychwanegu'n sylweddol i'n costa ni fel awdurdod tân. Mae o hefyd yn mynd i ychwanegu costa sylweddol i awdurdodau tân eraill. Ella bydd o'n stopio ni wneud gwaith hanfodol arall oherwydd y peth. Felly mae'n wirioneddol angen edrych ar y mater yma oherwydd mae'r sefyllfa yma mynd i weithredu i'r dyfodol. Efo newid hinsawdd, da ni'n mynd i gael tywydd poeth yn fwy aml a mwy aml, a da ni hefyd felly yn mynd i gael mwy a mwy o dana. Fedra ni ddim jyst isa nôl a derbyn ond o pe mae yna dana fel mae'n digwydd, bydd y gwasanaeth tân yn mynd allan i sortio fo. Mae rhaid cael mwy o gynllunio ymlaen llaw. A fel dwi'n deud, ydy hynna ddim yn deud dim byd yn erbyn yr awdurdod tân, mond camoliaeth sgynnau i'r ffordd mae'r awdurdod tân yn gweithio. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr, Gwynfor, am y sylwadau. Who would like to respond from the Principal Officer team? Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Owen, for those comments, because I do agree with you that with the climate change and the rising of temperatures, what was a irregular incident is now becoming almost every summer. We are dealing with more and more wildfires. I can't possibly comment on natural resources policy, so I will leave that. With regards to the contract for the helicopter, the contract is with Natural Resources Wales, but that is subcontracted out, and that contractor is in demand across the whole of the UK at this moment in time. This is something that we are discussing with Welsh Government, and I think there is a realisation that across Wales we need to be resourced better for dealing with these incidents every year. So we will continue with those discussions. With regards to the UK, the organisation that we are part of, the the National Fire Chiefs Council has been pressurising the UK government to recognise that this is a everyday incident, and wildfires, when we used to think of them as something that was either in the Southern Hemisphere or indeed in Europe, is now on our doorstep. So as I say, conversations are taking place, and I appreciate your support for the work that the crews in North Wales have been doing. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Councillor Paul Cunningham.
Diolch Cadeirydd. Many years ago, as you understand, I was a firefighter, and we thought the summer of 1976 was exceptional. It was new to us. We were sent to places like Cynwyd and Llandegla, places we'd never been to in the old Flintshire days. But as we were Clwyd, we were going to these places. We thought we had it hard. But when I look at the firefighters of today and the problems that they are facing, I am very proud of this service, that I am a member of the authority. I am proud of each and every one of them, from the merest fire, I apologise, I don't mean to use that word, from the firefighter right through to the chief and all the backroom staff. Their work is tremendous. Diolch yn fawr iawn, and pass on my thanks to all the firefighters. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Paul. And as chair, I actually put something out on social media last week thanking all those involved in tackling the wildfires and praising them for their courage, their dedication and their professionalism. And I'm sure that all members of the authority would agree with those comments, and I'm sure that the chief will pass that back to all those involved. Cynghorydd Owen Roberts.
Bore da, diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Swn i'n licio ategu be mae Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen wedi dweud yn diolch o galon i'r tîm sydd wedi bod allan yn cwffio'r tanna yma. Maen nhw wedi bod yn rhoi gwaith anhygoel i fewn. Ond ar y mater arall, be oedd Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen yn sôn am efo Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru a bod y ffermwyr wedi codi y pwynt i fyny nad oedden nhw'n cael gwneud y gwaith oedden nhw'n wneud. Dwi yma, diolch i'r nefoedd nad oes a ddim tân wedi bod yn ardal i lle ma' na dan wedi bod yn y gorffennol a rhai mawr iawn wedi bod. A'r galwadau dwi wedi bod yn gael ydy gyn perchenogion tir ar y mynydd yn lle 2 flynedd neu 2 blynedd yn ôl, byddan ni tu allan i'r parc, mi ddodd Parc Cenedlaethol Eryri i fewn i fama a gwneud firewall dros yr ardal i stopio tanna fynd o gwmpas fferm 2. Rwan, mae'r perchnogion wedi gysylltu gyda'r Parc Cenedlaethol a maen nhw wedi dweud do mi wnaethon ni 2 flynedd neu 2 blynedd yn ôl, ond bellach sgynnon ni mor arian i wneud y fath yna o waith bellach. So dydy'r parc chwaith yn rhan ni ddim yn creu'r firewall yma. Ydy'r gwasanaeth yn cydweithio efo'r Parc Cenedlaethol ynglyn â hyn? Cos mae yna bobl yn fama gweld yr difrod sydd wedi cael ei gwneud yn poeni yn aruthrol fysa fo'n digwydd yn y pen yma rwan. Eisiau gwybod ydw i pa fath o gydweithrediad sydd rhwngthon ni a Parc Cenedlaethol Eryri sydd yn cyfrio'r anfarth tir mawr yma yn Gogledd Cymru. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Yeah, I can say that there is work that goes on, prevention work. We are on the whole a preparedness and prevention organisation, so there is a lot of work that goes on with our prevention teams, where we not only speak with our local communities and our farmers, but we do engage with Natural Resources Wales. There are activities that ongo which when we're at steady state, where we actually do go to land, we do visit sites, we do look for areas of risk, and we look at how we may deploy our sort of tactics when there isn't an incident, to sort of understand how we can work together. So it is really about understanding those areas of risk and working with natural resources wells wherever possible.
Councillor Rhonda Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say a personal thank you to the crews that attended. I know Llangollen attended a week last Thursday and Friday to a deliberate fire in my area where 4 separate fires were started, and 2 of them went underground then, and they had to come back Friday morning, Friday evening. Individuals were identified for causing these fires. What's the procedure for liaising between the Fire Authority and North Wales Police to sort of bring these to book, these culprits? Thank you.
Yeah, so where we do have, sorry, Chief.
No, we both jump in. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, well, with any fire, where we have, whether it's a deliberate fire or where there's arson, we certainly would engage with North Wales Police, and we would bring this to their attention, and they would determine whether there's charges that will be brought, and obviously that then would go through to CPS for things to be progressed. I'm afraid, other than us raising the issues and highlighting where these fires that have not been accidental, it's then over to our blue light colleagues.
Thank you. I know the incident was reported, and a crime number was received by the person who reported it. I was just wondering if you've got any updates on it.
I don't have an update that I could provide you with now, but perhaps I could certainly look into that. But perhaps that beyond us reporting or the incident being reported, it might be difficult for us to establish that information, depending on what the police are available to us.
Thank you. But the location where it was very awkward, and I just like to say thank you to the crews. Thank you.
Cynghorydd John Ivan Jones.
Diolch yn fawr iawn eto. Tydi deud diolch ddim yn crafu'r wyneb na di o faint o ddiolch sgynnon ni I pawb sydd wedi gweithio dros yr wythnosa dwytha. Cwestiwn o gen I yn sydyn. Dwi'n gwybod ydych chi'n deud bod ni yn dibynnu ar Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru pan mae'n dod I hofrennydd neu gweithio ar y tanna gwyllt yma. Y cwestiwn sydd gen i'n syml ydy, fel mae gennym ni wasanaeth chwilio ag achub yn Gaernarfon, dwi'n meddwl na ydy o'n just mater gweinyddol ydy o bod ni methu tapio fewn I ddefnyddio hofrennydd o fyno ac addasu yr offers I alluogi ni gario dŵr môr a gweithio efo nhw. Does a byth sôn bod ni'n gallu gweithio hefo'u hofrennydd nhw. Gan bod pawb o dan straen ariannol a bod ni'n cyn iawn I gadw y gwasanaeth yn Gaernarfon, tos am ffordd o cydweithio'n fyno hefyd I ddefnyddio'r offer nhw. Mae'r hofrennydd sgynnyn nhw yno, beth dwi ddallt, o werddon I'r Eidal yn cael I ddefnyddio pan mae sefyllfaoedd fel hyn yn codi. Felly, oes y gyswllt rhwng y bwrdd tân a'r adran yna I fedru gwella pethau yn y dyfodol? Diolch.
Chief?
Okay. I think there's been a lot of attention on a helicopter resource, and it isn't actually just a helicopter. It's having the specialist trained pilots that are able to scoop up the water and to put it onto the fire. And although it is very helpful, it is not the only tool that we need. So I've talked earlier about the need to create fire breaks and to use cutting gear to create those fire breaks. And we have been using the equipment from Natural Resources Wales for that. And in many ways, that can be more effective in containing the fire. So although, I know the media focus has been on the helicopter and aircraft resource, but that is not the only tactic that's needed. But I appreciate that everybody is trying to help and to make useful suggestions. So thank you for pointing that out to us.
Councillor Beverly Parry-Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just going back to really what Councillor Roberts said about the wildfires, and I suppose it's advice that I'm looking for, really, because I was made aware last week of what I would say was totally irresponsible actions by a resident, where they live out in rural Wales, halfway up a mountainside, you've got livestock in the field, and then they were bragging. I suppose bragging is maybe the wrong word, but it's the only word I can use to describe it, where they had in their orchard burnt their garden rubbish. Now that to me was a totally irresponsible action, given the situation of where they live, the situation that we're in. The ground is so dry, it's tinderbox, in my opinion, and I might be wrong. It would have only taken a spark, and then, you know, obviously it could spread. We could have had a wildfire, and it would have been putting our firefighters' lives in danger, in my opinion, unnecessarily. So I just wondered, is there anything as a fire and rescue authority that we can do, or perhaps we are doing, to educate members of the public, certainly in rural areas? Look, you really don't need to be doing this. You know, you can burn your garden rubbish at any time. You know, because I was absolutely furious, and I did tear a strip off this person. They were left in no doubt as to what I thought of them, but that's by the by. And I just wondered, do we have, I don't know, like an engagement programme where we can educate our rural residents, and just it should be on everyone's agenda and radar, and the seriousness of it. But I was absolutely horrified when I heard what this person had done, and then I'm thinking, so should I report this person to the police? Because I would have no qualms whatsoever about doing it, because in my opinion it was dangerous. Sorry, that's it, rant over.
Thank you, Beverly. Justin?
Yeah, I think it starts right the way back. So we try and get ahead of the issue in so much that we're educating our young people. So in terms of, you know, we visit every school in North Wales with our educationalists, and about, you know, the dangers of fire in open spaces is absolutely part of that education. So we're certainly warning people about dangers of having open fires, you know, barbecues and things like that. So we're speaking to people when they're youngsters. If you've been following any social media, you will see that this week, whilst we don't want the public to be fatigued with the messaging that we're sending out, but we are messaging around the fires that are ongoing. We're showing videos, we're giving messages out there, but we're definitely making sure that we put those safety messages in there at the same time. So we're advising people about open fires, barbecues, discarded smoking materials, glass, and all those things. So we're most definitely asking people to work with us, because we're trying to tell people about how stretched we are currently. But yeah, these certainly agree. These conditions currently, they're absolutely tinderbox. So we'll emphasise that we really want people to take care. It's very sad that we still get calls to our control room of people advising us that they are undertaking control on private land. And all we can do is give advice, and we do give advice, and we plead with people not to have fires. But there have been occasions where people give us assurances that they've got beaters or they've got water, and that they're able to deal. But if anything got out of control, they could deal with themselves. But you know, thanks for raising the point. We're certainly, you know, it goes with all of us, I guess. You know, every time that we are perhaps engaging with friends and family and other people, you know, we have to make sure that we all spread the word about how it is important to sort of take care during these conditions. But thank you.
Thank you, Justin. We have got a very long agenda today, so I'm keen for us to move forward. So I'll give the last. No, I've got two hands being raised. If you can be as succinct as possible, please. Councillor Paul Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair. I'm on the AONB authority, and we're always banging the drum about the country code, about people taking barbecues into the country and so on and so forth. So we work in conjunction with the North Wales Fire Authority to push this message over. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak once more.
Thank you, Paul. Ac y gair olaf o hwn i cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen. Diolch, Gwynfor.
Diolch am ddeiriad am ddod yn ôl, Mr Cadeirydd. Just cwestiwn yma'n di bod yn sôn am gwahanol hofrenyddion a bethau felly. Ydy drons yn rhywfaint o help? Mae'r eironi ydy bod yna ymarfer drons yn Llanbedr reit trwy milltir ddwy wrth y tân. A mae yna lot o bobl ac yn dweud bod y drons yma ddigon mawr a digon cry i gario dŵr. Os ydy hynny'n wir, sa fo'n beth gwych i weld y drons mae'n cael ei defnyddio lles bobl, a felly fysa fo hefyd yn wych i gweld nhw yn cael ei defnyddio, achos oes ddim risg i fywyd wrth gwrs pan ydych chi'n defnyddio drons yn wahanol i beth ydych chi'n defnyddio o frenydd. Diolch.
I think ACFO Anthony Jones is going to respond to that one. Anthony?
Diolch, thank you. Yes. What I can say is we have been using drones throughout these incidents. We have a strong partnership with the local police force, North Wales Police. I was at Conway Mountain last Sunday evening, and the use of their drone was fantastic in gaining our situational awareness for our commanders, understanding where the potential fire breaks were, where the potential for fire spread was. And we are also developing an internal business case for that similar drone capability for ourselves. In relation to drones for firefighting, I think whilst they are probably in their infancy, there are examples probably outside of the UK where drones are being used. I haven't seen sort of experience or examples within the UK. They will be limited in the impact they can have. The helicopter that we have used via Natural Resource Wales in the past is truly specialised, as the Chief mentioned earlier, but in high demand at this time at these times. But I would envisage us seeing as a sector the use of drones expanding, but it isn't something that's currently, if you like, in service in the UK that I'm aware of for firefighting. But they are very, very much part of our tools in our armoury for situational awareness and understanding the scale, certainly, of the fires that we've been dealing with.
And just on that point, actually, one of my favourite programmes is watching Michael Portillo's Continental Railway Journeys. And when he visited Corsica, he visited the Fire Rescue Service in Corsica, who are trialling using drones not just for situational awareness, but also to actually measure the heat from the spots on the mountain so they can identify where the fires may sort of reignite. So that's something that's being piloted outside the UK at the moment. Anyway, I didn't intend to have the last comment, but I have. Chair's privilege. So thank you, everybody, for your contributions. So, as I said before, it's a long agenda. We will have a comfort break around 10:30 for you to have a chance to have a little respite. So moving on to item number 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 20th of April. We can deal with those in terms of accuracy, please. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, and lastly, page 11. I can't see any hands being raised in terms of accuracy concerns. So can somebody propose that we accept the minutes of the true record? Thank you, Mark Young. Diolch Arwyn, will you all show that you're in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. So just a couple of items to report on. Item 4.3, in the last meeting, we reported on the legislation that had been passed by the Welsh Government in relation to the change in governance arrangements. Now, the previous Welsh Government had stated that it was their intention that South Wales Fire and Rescue Authority would begin the process of the new governance arrangements with cabinet members representing the different authorities and then additional members being independently appointed, and that was to commence later this year, and then Mid and West Wales and North Wales would follow suit after the elections next May. The new Cabinet Secretary last Monday has made a written statement in which he has announced that the commissioners will remain for the time being in South Wales with the intervention measures until after next May. So although progress has been made, they're not satisfied that sufficient progress has been made to be able to withdraw the commissioners. Unfortunately, the written statement does not make any reference to what is going to happen in the meantime with North Wales and Mid and West Wales. So I'm going to ask the Chief whether or not she's heard anything further as to what's going to happen now with governance arrangements in terms of the timetable. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, we were notified of the Cabinet Secretary's statement probably at about the same time as South Wales colleagues. So we didn't have the opportunity to feed into that statement, but we have subsequently met with Welsh Government officials. I guess we express our concern that, we believe that South Wales has made good progress, and the work that we do across the fire services on culture has been impressive. But the Welsh Government officials tell us that the expectations now are that South Wales will probably have a formal new governance arrangements at the same time as North Wales Fire Service and Mid and West Wales Fire Service in July 27. Now, that is probably unfortunate because we were intending to work with South Wales to learn from them and also then start making arrangements for the transition to the new governance arrangements next year. I believe that the appointment for additional members is now going to be later, possibly into 27 as well. So we continue to work with Welsh Government officials because, of course, before we know it, we will be moving to these new arrangements, and we need to ensure that we understand how this will operate. I know that, Gareth, you have also been discussing with the monitoring officers, with the other two fire and rescue authorities, and there still remains an awful lot of questions to be answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen, and then I'll hand over to the monitoring officer.
Gareth wedi fo'n gyntaf.
Diolch, very generous, thank you. So, Chair, the Chief mentioned that I am in touch with the other two fire clerks, which I am. We meet on a regular basis, we meet monthly. The clerk to South Wales was working with Cardiff University to try and develop some precedent documents around governance and a constitution for the new fire authority. In a way, she's quite grateful that she has a little extra time to do that, because it was quite a tall order trying to get all of the paperwork in place. But yes, it has left them in a very difficult situation. We still haven't heard anything from Cardiff in terms of a proposed governance model, and so that is something that I am raising now with the South Wales clerk to say, look, we need to do this. Can we be getting on with this? It's also something that I've suggested to the Chief, that we start having a conversation about what Plan B might look like in the event that Cardiff University take more than a few months to be able to deliver that paperwork to us, because we really need to start planning for what the governance will look like when we drop from 28 down to just 9 members. It'll be a real challenge. Diolch, Cadeirydd, and diolch, Gwynfor.
Diolch, Gwynfor, drosodd i chi, diolch.
Diolch yn fawr. Mae'r mater yma'n bryderu fi'n aruthrol. Mae rwy'n yn disgwyl, wrth gwrs, pen na lywodraeth newydd bod yna benderfyniadau gwahanol yn cael ei wneud. Ond yn yr achos yma, dwi yn pryderus iawn bod i ddechrau bod y comisiynwyr yn aros i fewn yn De Cymru. Mae hynny yn tynnu ffwr yn gyfan gwbl y democratiaeth a'r atebolrwydd o'na, felly mae hynny yn siomedig iawn. Mae'n siomedig iawn o glwad bod ni ddim yn gwybod yn iawn be fydd yn digwydd, ac ella na bydd pethau ddim mewn lle tan Gorffennaf 27. Fel da ni'n gwybod, mae hynny 2 fis ar ôl yr etholiad. A felly, beth sy'n digwydd rhwng Mai 27 a Gorffennaf 27? Ydy'r un awdurdod yn cael ei ethol arwain i bob pwrpas, neu'r un faint yn cael ei ethol am 2 fis, a wedyn bod ni'n gorfod i gyd mynd ar ôl 2 fis. Dwi'n meddwl mae yna lot o gwestiynau i'w codi fyma. O glwad bod swyddogion yn trafod efo swyddogion y llywodraeth, ond dwi yn meddwl bod o hefyd yn golygu ddylsan ni fel aelodau o'r awdurdod bod yn rhoi pwysau ar yr gweinidog, dyn nhw'n dyddio yma gweinidog cabinet i ddod i benderfyniad sydyn ac i bwysleisio yr angan am newid. Os yw'r newid am fod, i pawb ddim yn hapus efo'r newid wrth gwrs, ond os yw'r newid am fod bod o yn digwydd yn gynt. Dwi hefyd yn bryderus o glwad ella bod yr aelodau ychwanegol yma mynd i gael ei dewis rhyw ben cyn i'r aelodau o'r awdurdod. Ydy hynny'n golygu bod heini'n mynd i gyfarfod efo'i gilydd cyn cael aelodau o'r awdurdod lleol? Mae o'n codi gymaint o gwestiynau, a dwi'n bryderus iawn am y mater. Diolch.
Diolch, Gwynfor. Gareth, you want to come back in?
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Councillor Owen is correct. There are many questions. I'm afraid we don't have as many answers as we do have questions. There are some things we do know. We do know that the legislation has been passed to change the membership and the governance model for the Fire Authority, so that from May next year there will be 9 members. 6 of those will be cabinet members and 3 will be appointed by Welsh Government. As the Chief has said, we don't know the timetable for Welsh Government to appoint the extra 3. There are some practicalities, inevitably, around appointing the 6 constituent councillor representatives. The councils themselves don't have to have their AGM until the end of May. Quite a lot of us will be having our AGMs as late as possible in May, because of course there will have been full elections, and so we don't know what the results will be, and we need to allow ourselves as much time as possible to form a new administration and therefore to appoint the cabinet members, because it will be one of those cabinet members from each council that will form the new authority. So it's quite possible that we won't know the membership until early June, and then we need to have worked out what the committee structure looks like. We know that we need to have a standards committee, so there will have to be one of those. The expectation, I think, is that we will need to have some form of audit committee in order to comply with SIP for guidance. But beyond that, we have flexibility, and it is and our discretion. And it is that flexibility and discretion that we need to work through over the coming months, so that we have a structure that can carry on the important work that you provide at the moment and the important role that you provide at the moment as soon as possible, as Councillor Owen suggests, after those elections and after we know the membership of the authority next year.
Thank you, Gav. As has been said, lots of questions at this stage, but not many answers. Going back to the minutes, there's just one other item that I wanted us to report back on. Paragraph 11.3 talks about the pay award discussions that were taking place. Those have been resolved now, and I'm just going to invite ACFO Helen MacArthur to report on that, please. Dear Helen.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, Honourable Powell. I am really pleased to be able to confirm that the pay award for our Grey Book colleagues, that's colleagues who are firefighters, control firefighters as well, was settled at 3.8%. We've been able to put that into the July pay, and that's consistent with the budget process. We did forecast 3.8. What I can say, though, is that the pay award for our Green Book colleagues, so our corporate staff, hasn't yet been agreed. So we've still got a small residual risk, but for the vast majority of our staff, that's now been agreed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. And I did compliment Helen in the executive panel meeting that only North Wales predicted the 3.8% increase. Both Mid and West Wales and South Wales were too optimistic in what they predicted the pay award would be. So that concludes the minutes of the last meeting. So the next item on the agenda is the Chair's report. So you'll have received the quarterly report from myself, which details what myself and the Deputy Chair have been doing in terms of responsibilities and activities. Any questions or comments from anybody in relation to the quarterly report? No, I can't see any hands being raised. So will you just show that you agree with noting the contents, please? Diolch yn fawr. So item number 6 is the Hub Owen Training Centre update for information, and it's ACFO Justin Evans. Justin, over to you. Diolch.
Diolch, David. Yeah, I've delivered lots of updates on the training centre project in the past, and I guess this is probably the first one following events which really bring sharply into focus the importance of preparation and preparedness, which really is the backbone of what we do here. Whilst there's lots of exciting pictures and coverage on the news, that's probably we spend a minimal amount of time at incidents, and we spend most of our time in the actual work preparing our staff so they can respond in a professional way. So I just wanted to just put that out there before I provide the update. So this paper provides members with an update on the key risks associated with the Hub Owen Training Centre project, the mitigations that we've put in place, and the work that is ongoing to strengthen our funding position and the overall case for investment. It remains strategically important for the services project. It is intended to address long-standing limitations in our training estate and provide that modern, safe and sustainable facility for the future that supports that operational competence that I've been speaking about, as well as addressing issues around health and well-being and wider organisational resilience. Members will be aware that we have previously received approval to progress this project to REBA stage 4. The key issue now with that is that stage represents a significant point of commitment for us. In practical terms, it locks in the design solutions and what that will cost. So that is it makes it quite final. And in the absence of secured capital funding for the project, it presents a material risk. This position, therefore, has been reviewed carefully through our own internal project governance arrangements, not because we think that the need or the strategic need has changed, but we must ensure that our next steps are proportionate and that they are properly controlled. So in terms of response to that risk, the project team is actively supporting and exploring funding opportunities across a number of domains. We're doing so on the basis that a project of this scale seems to be unlikely to be funded through a single route. Initial conversations have already taken place with Welsh Government, and we have sent out briefing correspondence to the government and to others. But we have set out basically the services wider sort of direction and our plans for the development of this training centre. I know certainly there's some offline conversations that have also been taken place. We're going to refresh those conversations with the new administration, and we're going to have some clear emphasis on the ways that we think this project is going to align with any emerging sort of policy priorities. The outline business case, which you've seen a draft copy of, it's a work in progress, and it remains live and it will continue to develop, and that's important because it gives us that chance to keep strengthening that case as new information emerges to us. Members will know that from the early updates that the preferred option was for a centralised, purpose-built facility capable of supporting operational, corporate and multi-agency functions, so bringing in the other agencies in North Wales, and that remains the position at this stage. That there doesn't seem to be any compelling argument to materially reduce the scale or ambition of what we set out to do. When we brought all those various options to you as authority members previously, you were very clear to me as the project lead the direction to take with that, and we are continuing that. So we need to make sure that the business case is as strong and as rounded as it possibly can be, and before we sort of lock in those major commitments which I just mentioned. We have had early conversations with other Category 1 responders about shared use of the site. Although the site, it's a 10-acre site, it seems massive. If you drive past there, it's a really big site. When you start to put, the various elements required to develop across all the domains that we work in, that space quickly is used up. But we are having conversations. We're looking at, as the Chief mentioned, we were at the NFCC conference last week, and there is a strong discussion and theme towards community resilience. We definitely see that this site can play a part in that. So that means that it isn't just about the site is going to contribute to what we need in terms of our training and operational preparedness, but it's about that resilience building for partners and working with our local resilience forum and community groups. I know some of you on the call here, you heard me speak about this last week, where we had a benefits workshop here in headquarters, and we had around about 40 attendees at that event, with everything from local authorities. We had the Trunk Road Agency, Fire and Rescue Authority members, we had local education providers, the NHS in Wales, we had other blue light partners, mountain rescue. So there was lots of people there. And what we were trying to extract last week was what benefits that we understand fire. We want to know what benefits this facility could provide across the whole range of services that are offered in North Wales. So the project board has considered the risks. We've considered the sort of milestones that we've got ahead of us, and as a mitigation, we took the decision to slow the project down with a short and controlled slowdown of the project of between 4 and 6 months. And the intention with this, it isn't about losing momentum with the project, but it's about making sure we've got enough time for that stakeholder engagement, which I just mentioned, and those funding discussions, which we now need to have, and to work on that business case. So we want to do that before we get to a more committed stage. There is, what we don't want to do is get to a hard stop with this project. We just want to keep moving the project on and building the case of this development for North Wales. We do have to be, I know that there is a compelling case for change, but we need to be realistic that it may not in isolation. We might not be able to secure all the funding required from a single source. And for that reason, we're now considering how a blended approach may need to be developed, potentially including grant funding, low interest borrowing, and any sort of capital support from partners if we can bring partners in. But I'm going to be clear, I'm not asking members to take decisions around committing to funding today, but I think it is really important that we're open about, if external funding routes do not materialise, that options, including support from local authorities, would need to be brought back to this environment for a discussion and consideration. But we would do that through our normal and regular budget setting and scrutiny processes. So, the way that we set our usual budget, if we needed authority contributions for that, we would do that as part of setting our balanced budget. We would only do that on evidence-based and proportionate basis as well. So we would make sure that members had full scrutiny. And I guess that from conversations we've had previously and conversations I've had outside of this environment, that would sound quite concerning to members. And I don't want to understate it, but I want to offer assurance that members can be confident that this is being progressed by a capable team, and that our continued focus is about managing this risk and protecting the authority's position. So I suppose in closing, I just want to sum up by saying, that this project remains important, necessary. The risks are real, particularly around funding, but they're most definitely understood and they're being actively managed. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Justin. And yes, as you mentioned, some of us were at the benefits workshop with the partner agencies last week, and it was a really positive experience. A lot of buzz in the room, and people were quite excited about the project. Number of hands been raised. First of all, Councillor Gareth Sandilands. Gareth.
Yeah, thank you. I thought I'd say something as the member champion for on the board. Yeah, since the last authority meeting, we've continued to engage with the officers and developed of the Hub Alwen Training Centre project. I've been encouraged really with the refining of the project and ensuring that the modern, flexible and sustainable training facility that meets both current and operational needs. The project team continues to focus on ensuring the business case is robust, the risks are actively managed, and that the value for money remains central to the decision making. There is also continued emphasis on the design of the facility and the supporting of the firefighting development. Multi-agency, as Justin's alluded to, we had a fantastic workshop last week where there was, 40 different organisations. There was a lot of interest in this from across North Wales's organisations. From resilience to it was quite amazing to see the well-being and environmental sustainability being brought up. But as members champion, I've sought assurance that members will continue to receive timely updates as the project continues to progress through the next stages of governance and procurement. I welcome the constructive engagement between members and officers and look forward to the bringing of key update milestones as they are reached. I'd also stress the importance of future-proofing, and the centre is evolving for operational risks, including climate change, which we've already mentioned substantially this morning, and the new firefighting technologies that come out. We are open to consultation at the moment, and I would encourage each and every member on this call to go out to their residents and implore them to come in and seek fill in that survey, that consultation, because we want to make it as meaningful as possible across North Wales, and that is really important. So I'd just like to leave it there, but I want to say once again, thanks to all the team taking part and the authority members that are giving views. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Cynghorydd Arwyn Roberts.
Diolch yn fawr am y cadeirydd. Yn lle gyntaf, dwi jyst eisiau llongyfarch Justin a'r tîm ar y gweithdy Hwbawen gafon ni yn Pencatrys dim uchan. Mi oedd y ffordd yn cael ei gyflwyno yn wych, wedi dysgu lot o'r mater. A hefyd, y gai ategyd be oedd Gareth yn dweud yma, bod mae'r ymgynghoriad yn ymlaen rwan, a fyswn ni'n yn gofyn I bawb basio ymlaen I bwy bynnag da chi'n nabod I gymryd rhan yn yr ymgynghoriad, mae fo'n hollol bwysig. Ond un beth swn I yn licio codi fyny, mi o'n I siarad efo gwahanol fudiadau yna dim uchar, a mi oedd y matab nhw yn wych i'r cyflwyniad. Dwi yn trafod rhywbeth, a dwi ddim yn gwybod am ei leoliad o. Dwi'n dod o Gaernarfon, a mae pobl yn gofyn I lle mae fo, a dwi'n dweud, wel, mae fo yn Llanelwy rwla, yn lle, dwi'n mynd iawn lle, ond dyna beth swn I yn wir licio gwybod yn union lle mae fo. Da ni'n trafod rhywbeth yma man, a da ni ddim yn gwybod. So, swn I yn gynghori bod na wahoddiad ymdallan I beth bynnag eisiau gweld lle mae fo. Dwi'n meddwl sy'n yn help garw, cos dwi'n dweud ia Llanilfiad a'r cwbl dwi'n gwybod lle ma fo, a swn i yn licio fos yna rhywun yn mynd i arwain i ar hynny. Ond eto, llongyfarchiadau mawr i'r tîm a nath roed y cyflwyniad ffantastig yna, a mi o pob yn mynd o'na, a dyna'r ymataf o bob un o bobl yn dweud ar y ffordd allan o'na.
Diolch Arwyn, a dwi'n siŵr mi allan ni trefnu ymweliad i'r safle i'r aelodau maes o law. Diolch. Councillor Anthony Wren, Anthony?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My main concern has been the finances with this project, getting sufficient funding without having to rely on local authority support. Because if we do have to rely on local authority support, for example, Flintshire's budget for 25-26 was 448.9 million, of which total unearmarked reserves are 16.76 million, or less than 4% rainy day money. Where's the funding going to come from?
Chief?
Okay, this is very much what we are currently investigating, and as Justin said in his presentation, we now recognise that it won't be all from grant funding from Welsh Government, but what it could be is a blended approach from both grants through a number of different sources to low-cost borrowing, and we are talking about to Welsh Government about whether they could support the cost of borrowing, but ultimately that also might require to put through the usual budget setting process an element to be supported from the local authorities. Now, that is something that we've been trying to avoid, but I think realistically that needs to be part of the budget discussion, which will take place this autumn and spread over probably 3 or 4 years. It's the key issue around this project. I think everybody recognises it's absolutely essential. We need to have this built, but it's getting that blended approach to funding.
Thank you, Anthony, for that easy question that you just posed. I think the reality is that it's really difficult for us to know the direction of travel at the moment until we get a clear answer from Welsh Government as to what extent they will support this project. And we are trying to move those conversations forward as quickly as possible, but we're not in that place as yet. And until we get to that place, we won't know exactly what sort of the blended funding model that the Chief has referred to would look like. Helen, do you want to come in?
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge Councillor Wren's concerns and also to reiterate what the Chief has said. The Budget Scrutiny Working Group, we've dedicated a single meeting to detailed modelling around the training centre. So it's to give assurance to the Fire Authority that when the budget is presented, that work will have been undertaken, looking at all of the options, the blended approach, and ultimately any impact on the levy. So it is something that we're looking at, and we will take forward through the Budget Scrutiny Working Group.
Anthony, are you okay with those answers? Yeah, great, thank you. I can't see any other hands being raised, so I'm going to move to the recommendations. And it is recommended that members note the current risks and mitigations associated with the Hub Owen Training Centre project. Note the proposed adjustment to the programme to allow additional time for funding and stakeholder engagement. And note that no funding commitment is sought at this stage, but that future proposals may be brought for members' consideration if external funding routes cannot be secured. Can I have a proposer that we accept those recommendations? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ian. Will you all show that you agree, please? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. It's coming up to 10:30. I'm going to suggest that we do have a comfort break now because we've still got a long way to go, but we've been discussing matters now for an hour and a half. So I suggest that we, at 10:40 prompt, I suggest you keep the links open and just turn off your camera and your microphones. And as I say, we'll resume at 10:40 prompt. Diolch pawb. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, Chair.
Hello there.
Hi, we've just had apologies from Councillor Paul Cunningham. He's unable to join us for the second half as he's having technical difficulties.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks for letting us know.
Diolch.
Chair, can I also just note then before the recording starts that the next item, the biodiversity, is going to be presented by Elgan.
Okay, and what about the estate strategy?
Elgan et al.
Well, Croeso nôl pawb, welcome back everybody. It is 10:41, so we'll resume now the second half of the agenda. So on to item number 7, which is the biodiversity annual update for assurance. And I think, Elgan, it's you that's presenting this. Diolch, Elgan.
Bore da, diolch cadeirydd a bore da aelodau. Rwy'n falch o gyflwyno diweddariad hwn ar y cynnydd yn erbyn cynllun gweithredu bioamrywiaeth yr awdurdod ar gyfer y cyfnod 2025 i 2028. Cafodd y cynllun ei gymrydwyo gan yr awdurdod ym mis Hydref 2025. Pwrpas o'r eitem heddiw i rhoi'r wybodaeth diweddaraf i aelodau am y cynnydd tuag at gyflawni amcanion y cynllun. A rhoi sicrwydd bod y gwasanaeth yn parhau weithredu yn unol â'i ddyletswyddau statudol mewn perthynas â chynnal a gwella bioamrywiaeth. Dwi'n falch o gadarnhau bod cynnydd da wedi wneud yn ystod y cyfnod adrodd gyntaf. Mae 5 o'r 10 nod bellach wedi cwblhau, ac mae gwaith yn parhau ar y 5 cam gweithredu sy'n weddill. Mae sawl carreg gweithio bwysig wedi chyflanwi fel y nodir yn y adroddiad, ond hoffwn dynnu sylw at un neu ddau ohonynt heddiw. Mae hyfforddiant bioamrywiaeth wedi rhoi i dîm arweinyddol y gwasanaeth. Mae cynllun rheoli clefyd coed onen bellach mewn crym. A mae egwyddor gwelliant net bioamrywiaeth wedi mabwysiadu ar gyfer pob prosiect cyfalaf newydd. Yn ogystal ac am y polisi hyn, mae gwelliannau ymarferol i'w gweld ar draws y stad. Mae ardaloedd yn Rhyl a Llanfairfechan wedi troi yn ddolydd blodau gwyllt, a mae prosiect gwella bioamrywiaeth hefyd ar waith yn y Llangollen, Bae Colwyn a Bala. Mae nodweddion newydd wedi'w gosod gan gynnwys 48 o flychau nythu i wenoliad a blwch tyllianod yn y Bala. Cyn i mi gloi, hoffwn diolch i Tim a'r tîmau ar draws y gwasanaeth sydd wedi cyfrannu at y gwaith hyd yma. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Elgan, and can I echo the thanks to Tim Christensen, the Environment and Climate Change Manager, for his excellent work in relation to this area. At the actual benefits Hwbawen workshop last week, I was talking to a senior member for Natural Resources Wales who was highly complimentary of the work that Tim is doing. So it's good to acknowledge that. Any questions or comments, please? I can't see any hands being raised. It is just an update. Can I have somebody to recommend that we accept the recommendation on the progress? Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Charlie. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. So that's been passed. So we now move on to the next item of the agenda, which is back to you, Elgan, for the estate strategy report. Diolch.
It is, diolch yn fawr. I'm pleased to present this report introducing the authority's estate strategy for 2026 to 2036. The purpose of today's report is to provide members with an overview of the strategy, which sets out a long-term framework for how we will manage, invest in, and modernise the services estate over the next 10 years. As members will be aware, our estate is one of the service's most important assets, which supports emergency response, training, and community engagement, to name just a few. The strategy has been developed following the most comprehensive condition survey undertaken in recent years, covering all of our properties. The finding confirms that while a significant proportion of our buildings remain in good condition, many require investment over the coming years. The strategy therefore provides a clear and evidence-based approach to allocate resources and ensure investment is directed to help deliver the greatest operational, safety, and organisational benefits. I'd like to highlight a few key aspects of the paper. Firstly, it confirms that the current distribution of fire stations across North Wales remains appropriate and continues to support effective emergency response. Building on the authority's decision to retain its existing network of fire stations following the ECR, the strategy focuses on maintaining, improving, and modernising the estate to ensure it remains fit for purpose and capable of supporting service delivery into the future. Secondly, the strategy places a strong emphasis on improving well-being, operational effectiveness, and firefighter health. This includes addressing contamination management, improving welfare facilities, and ensuring our buildings are inclusive and accessible for modern and diverse workforce. Thirdly, the strategy established a structured programme of investments with early priorities including Bangor, Gogledd, and Porthmadog Fire Station. Members will also note the long-standing facilities management SLA with North Wales Police will conclude in March 2027 by mutual agreement. This marks the end of a successful partnership that has delivered significant benefits to both organisations over many years. I would like to take this opportunity to recognise and thank our colleagues at North Wales Police for their professionalism, commitment, and support throughout the period. In addition, members will note the continued importance of the proposed Hobart Training and Development Centre, as we've heard earlier today from ACFO Evans, which remains the service's preferred long-term solution for training and infrastructure. To conclude and to summarise, this strategy provides a clear vision for a safe, inclusive, operational effective and environmentally responsible estate that is fit to support the service of the communities of North Wales for the next generation. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Elgan. Perhaps I could start with the first question. The report says that around 32.6% of properties have a condition rating indicating urgent repairs or replacement works. So what we're saying is a third of the estate needs urgent repairs or replacement works. Is that something that we should be overly concerned about? How does that sort of correspond to other fire and rescue authorities?
So following the condition report on the survey we've had during 25-26 financial year, all that information has been collated into a central matrix, which looks at your fabrical, electrical and mechanical. And it then gives a score to rate our properties based on 1 being good condition, 2 being adequate, and 3 requiring works. As part of budget setting, we've now got a clear process or plan in place to be able to address that backlog maintenance. And within the report, it identifies that approximately 3.5 million will be required. And there's a phasing in there as well. So you can, over the next financial year, we're indicating £1 million. The following financial year, £1 million, and then that backlog maintenance then reduces. So they're not urgent, critical from a health and safety well-being. It's to ensure that the property is maintained in a good condition for the future.
Diolch. Just before I bring the chief, and the other part of my question is, I mean, are we an outlier in terms of having so many buildings that require urgent attention, or in fact, are we in a better place than other fire and rescue authorities? I don't know if you want to answer, or if the chief wants to come in.
I believe there's a national piece of work going on in terms of estates maintenance and backlog across the fire service in the whole of UK. I have not seen the outcome of that, but if there's something, I hope we'll be able to get some benchmarking information following that.
Yeah, Chief, do you want to come in?
Yes, Elgan is right. This is an issue that all fire and rescue services across the UK are experiencing. And I imagine Helen will come in to talk about one of the reasons is the fact that fire and rescue authorities do not have a capital allocation. I can't remember when the last time it was taken away, but it was obviously over a decade ago. And that means that any maintenance, any improvements has been at the expense of the revenue budget, because we borrow the money and we then need to pay the interest on that. So this is actually a national issue. I would agree with Elgan's assessment that yes, there's work to do, but because of the service level agreement that we've had with North Wales Police over the last 20 years, we are probably in a better place than a number of fire and rescue services across the UK. Doesn't mean that we haven't got a lot to do, and we need to future-proof our estates. I cut across you there, Helen. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, not really. I sit on the National Finance Committee, and it's a standing item on that agenda. I think every fire and rescue service is in the same position, with an ageing estate, the need to modernise for contamination purposes, and lack of capital funding. So I know a huge amount of work is being done, and we're definitely part of that. But we're currently not an outlier. But it doesn't mean that it's still an uncomfortable position to be. But I think what the estate strategy will now do is provide a framework against which we allocate funds to make sure that in terms of deriving that value for the money that we spend, we can have that absolute confidence that we're putting it into the right place. Thank you.
Diolch. Any other questions or comments from members? I can't see any hands being raised, so the recommendation is that we endorse the 10-year strategy that has been presented to us. Can I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Charlie. Seconder. Thank you, Mark. Will you all show that you're in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. So we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Welsh Language Annual Report for 2025-26. And it's good to have Natalie Jones with us. Natalie, are you presenting this report? Diolch yn fawr.
Yndw, diolch. Bore da pawb, a diolch cadeirydd. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd am y cyfle i gyflwyno'r adroddiad yma eto blwyddyn yma. Yr adroddiad monitro blynyddol ar safon yr iaith Gymraeg. Felly mae'r adroddiad yn rhaid amlinelliad o sut mae'r gwasanaeth wedi cydymffurfio efo'r safona, ac hefyd yn sôn am sut da ni wedi monitro hyrwyddo a datblygu'r Gymraeg o fewn y gwasanaeth. Felly na i dynnu sylw at amball i pethau sy'n sefyll allan. Felly mae'r galw am wasanaethau Cymraeg wedi cynyddu. Os welwch chi ar dudalen 7 yn yr adroddiad ei hun, da ni wedi bod yn edrych ar galwadau sy'n dŵad i fewn i'r ystafell rheoli, a mae hein wedi cynyddu bob blwyddyn. Mae wedi gostwng chydig eleni, ond fe welwch chi yn y flwyddyn 2020 oedd na 504 o alwadau Cymraeg, a mae hyn wedi cynyddu i 1,364 eleni, oedd e chydig bach yn uwch llynadd. Felly, be mae hwn yn dangos, bod yna gynnydd o dros 150% dros y 5 mlynedd, a mae hwn mewn ffordd yn adlewyrchu llwyddiant y gwaith mae'r staff yn y stafell rheoli yn ei wneud, a bod ni'n wneud fel gwasanaeth. Mae defnydd y Gymraeg o fewn yr adran atal hefyd yn parhau i fod yn gry. Cyflwyno cyfanswm o 1,927 o archwiliadau diogeleg ag iach mewn aelwydydd lle oedden nhw wedi cofnodi mae'r Gymraeg oedd yr iaith oedd yn cael ei ffefrio. Mae hwn yn gynnydd chydig bach o gynnydd o'r blwyddyn blaenorol. Hefyd ar hynny, da ni wedi gwneud gwelliannau i'r system cofnodi hefyd. Y nod hyn ydy cryfhau ansawdd y data. Felly, erbyn hyn, rydym wedi ychwanegu cwestiwn sy'n nodi ai'r Gymraeg oedd y iaith y ffefrif, a hefyd os mae drwy'r Gymraeg gynhalwyd yr archwiliad hefyd. Yn symud ymlaen, nododd bod 90.9% o staff efo sgiliau Cymraeg sy'n lefel 1 neu uwch, a wedyn pan da ni'n edrych ar lefel 4 a 5 sy'n staff rhugl, mae hwnna'n codi i 40.4%. A mae hyn hefyd yn uwch na'r flwyddyn blaenorol. Ni chafwyd unrhyw gwynion ffurfiol dros y flwyddyn diweddaraf sy'n reit positif i ni, a hefyd cynhaliwyd amrywiaeth o fentra. Oedd hein yn cynnwys hyfforddiant gloywi iaith i staff sy'n siaradwyr rhugl, ond oedd yn awyddus iawn i wella ei sgiliau ysgrifenedig. Da ni hefyd yn cynnal sesiynau plant a sgwrs bob mis, ac hefyd gawsom 2 sesiwn o'r tanio sgwrs eleni, a gafon ni tua 40 aelod o staff yn mynychu. Os wna'i symud ymlaen at cyfleoedd ar gyfer y dyfodol, fyddan ni'n edrych ar cyfleoedd dysgu Cymraeg ar gyfer staff llawn amser ag ar alwad, fel bod hyn yn sicrhau mynediad teg at y cyfleoedd yma. Fyddan ni'n parhau ehangu mentra mewnol sy'n meithrin hyder ac yn annog y defnydd y Gymraeg o ddydd i ddydd. Ac hefyd, da ni yn edrych ar datblygu mwy o weithgareddau hyrwyddo'r Gymraeg allanol i ni gael gynnwys digwyddiadau ymgysylltu yn y gorsafod tân mwyn annog y cyhoedd i defnyddio mwy o Gymraeg pan maen nhw'n gysylltu efo ni. A felly, dyna ni am yr adroddiad, ac mae yna argymhelliad hefyd i gymryd o'r adroddiad. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Natalie. Mae'n adroddiad positif iawn yn dangos lot o cynnydd mewn meysydd gwahanol sydd yn braf i weld. Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, a diolch i Natalie am yr adroddiad. Mae'n adroddiad calonogol ac yn dyst i faint o bwysig ydy cael strategaeth yma. Yn hyfryd clywed bod y nifer o bobl sydd yn cysylltu trwy'r gyfrwng Gymraeg wedi codi o 150%. Mae hynny jyst yn profi mae bobl eisiau cysylltu yn Gymraeg. Ddim jyst rhywbeth ar bapur, mae bobl wirioneddol eisiau cysylltu yn Gymraeg, ac mae o yn dystiolaeth pur o hynny, ac heblaw am y strategaeth yma fysa hynny ddim wedi digwydd. Felly diolch yn fawr i bawb sydd yn hwnnw ar beth, ac edrych ymlaen i weld mwy o gynnydd eto. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch Gwynfor. Cynghorydd Austin Roberts. Austin?
Diolch yn fawr. Ga i ddechrau ymddihiro am fod yn hwyr i'r cyfarfod, ond yn cael traffath efo logiau fewn ac yn y blaen. Mae'r adroddiad yma i'w ganmol. Mae'r cynnydd o'r defnydd o'r iaith yn yr awdurdod ganmol hefyd. A ga i hefyd jyst deud sylw, fys i ar Ynys Môn i'r Steddfod yr Urdd, ac un o'r pobl welis i o gwmpas y maes oedd prif weithredwr Dawn Dix, ac o'n i'n hynod o falch i gweld ti yna, ac oedd hi'n edrych fel bod ti'n mwynhau. Hefyd ar yr un nodyn, hoffwn i ddeud, ers dwi wedi bod yn aelod o'r awdurdod yma, mae rhaid mi ddeud, mae'r agwedd y prif swyddogion i gyd tuag at yr iaith wedi bod yn ganmoliadwy ofnadwy. A mae'n diolch i'r pobl hynny. Mae cwbl sgyneddi. Ac hoffwn i gynnig bod ni yn mynd gyda'r argymhelliad. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr am eich sylwadau, Austin. Cynghorydd Alun Roberts?
Ia, dwi'n ategu be mae Austin a Gwynfor wedi dweud yn Llangyfarch ar adroddiad yma. Mae'r beth sy'n blaenau ni heddiw yn ganologol dros ben, a gweld y cynnydd yn yr galwadau'r Gymraeg wedi codi o 504 i 1546. Mae hwnna'n ganologol dros ben. Ac a gweld hefyd, fel ydodd Cynghorydd Austin o hynna, yr gwasanaeth yn maes Steddfod yr Urdd eisiau ar y stondin, wel, ddipyn o weithiau deud wir, a gweld y Gymraeg yn cael ei arwyddo o fewn y gwasanaeth, mi oedd hwnnw'n ganologol dros ben. Yn beth sy'n cael gofyn i Natalie di, faint o bobl, gweithwyr sydd yn dysgu'r Gymraeg o fewn y gwasanaeth? Os ag 1, 2, 300, os a ryw beth ar hwnna, Natalie, faint sy'n dysgu'r Gymraeg?
Na i ddod i fewn ar hynna. Sgynna fi ddim ffigur penodol, achos mewn ffordd gan bod gynna ni rhyw sail o lefel 2, da ni'n dweud os di neb wedi cyrraedd lefel 2, maen nhw dal yn ddysgwyr neu yn siaradwyr newydd y Gymraeg, a mae pawb ar continiwm dysgu eu hunan, ond mae gennym ni staff sydd yn ymrwymo at yr tanysgrifiad dysgu Cymraeg drwy app, ac mae yna lond llaw o heina bob blwyddyn yn cymryd 12 mis allan i ddysgu, a hefyd y cyrsiau Cymraeg mae'r staff yn ei fynychu. Dim ond un cwrs gafon ni llynadd, ond eleni fydd na 2 gwrs gan bod na fwy o gyfleoedd i staff sydd yn staff weithredol sydd ar alwad neu yn rhai sy'n gweithio llawn amser. Yn y gorffennol mae wedi bod yn anodd iddyn nhw fynychu cyrsiau Cymraeg, ond da ni wedi trio i wneud o'n haws iddyn nhw, felly dwi'n rhagweld fydd yr niferoedd yn uwch erbyn yr adroddiad nesaf.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Llongyfarchiadau unwaith eto, a dalwch ati i wneud y gwaith anhygoel mae ydych chi'n gwneud. Da iawn chi.
Diolch Afwyn. Councillor Gareth Sandlands, Gareth?
Yes, thank you, Cadeirydd. My question is regarding, and thank you very much for the report. It's very extensive. I want to know what you're doing with Welsh organisations, particularly Mentoriaeth, Irgotba Cymru, Merched y Wawr, and other organisations to embed it. So it's not just a one-off turning up to the earth. It's throughout the year, 24/7. You know, how are we getting embedded? But these are organisations that are dedicated to the Welsh language, you know, and we should be, you know, partnering with them very strongly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, so I do represent the service on many fforwm iaith, on the Welsh Language Forums, in particularly the one in Ynys Môn, Gwynedd, and in Wrexham and Flintshire. I'm not currently on any other Welsh Language Forums, but if any members would like to get me in touch with any of them, I'm happy to attend those too. And it's good for us as a service to be part of these, because it's where you hear about what's going on day to day for promoting language in every different authority, and it gives us a chance to be part, whereas maybe if we weren't on these forums, we wouldn't know what was going on, and we wouldn't be considered as a organisation that would want to be a part of it. But we do work with the Mentoriaeth, and as I mentioned, one of the future developments is to work more with partner organisations that are external. We will be holding, it's currently just planned for Ynys Môn. We will be holding a sort of an open day in the station there, and we'll be working with Mudiad Meithrin, Mentoriaeth, and other partner organisations as well. But yeah, it's definitely something that's worthwhile to make sure that is embedded in everything we do.
Thank you, Natalie. It's really good. When dealing with recruitment of new volunteers, particularly our retained volunteers, we need to be addressing Welsh language first base young people, and that is, I think, to see that there is a future for speaking in Welsh in the language, and then they can go forward in a career basis. So recruitment is a really important thing with the young people. So thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. I can't see any other hands being raised, so I'll move to the recommendations. It's recommended that members 1, approve the Welsh Language Standards Annual Monitoring Report for 2025-26 for publication on the authority's website, and note the service's intention to publicise the document as noted in Standards 155, 161 and 167. Can I have a proposer, please? Diolch Arwyn, diolch Gwynfor, will you all show you agree? Diolch yn fawr. Diolch yn fawr unwaith eto I Natalie am yr adroddiad. So we'll move forward to the next item on the agenda, which is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Performance Assessment Progress Report for 2025-26. And it's the Chief, I think, that's presenting this. Thank you, Chief.
Diolch yn fawr. Following on from our annual report against the Welsh language standards, this is our annual report for 25-26, which shows the progress against our 5-year equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. I think it really gives a demonstration again about all that we are involved in, and just how broad the activities are around inclusion. This report was taken to the executive panel, and I just have one correction to the covering paper, where at paragraph 10 it talks about our improvement against the mean gender pay gap, and we are improving, so that's good news. But the improvement is not quite as good as the covering paper. The figure that is correct, and it's in the actual report itself, is that it's improved from 8.29% to 7.32%. And that's pleasing to see because it is well below the current UK average, which is at 13%. So the report sets out what we have done through this year against the 4 themes. And also at the end of the report, we look ahead to 26-27, where we intend to complete a review that we're doing into equality impact assessment practices. We are going to build on work that we've done in the past by introducing leadership training on neurodiversity and reasonable adjustments. We're going to continue to promote autism awareness training because an incident can be very, very stressful for anybody, but if someone involved has autism, then our firefighters, our officers need to know how to support that person in a particular way. We'll be publishing our gender pay gap action plan, because although we're making progress, we can always improve. We'll be quality checking our data on disability and ethnicity, because from next year, in addition to the gender pay gap report, we will be publishing a pay gap report of those criteria. We'll continue our positive action recruitment activity, because as you know, we are constantly recruiting for retained duty firefighters. And I would just like to point out that we are recruiting at the moment, and the interest, because of the wildfires, has been immense, and we're getting a number of people that are submitting applications, which is just really, really pleasing to see. And then lastly, we will continue to support our staff networks, and we intend to establish a carer and parents network. Happy to take any comments or questions and then move to the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you, Chief. And as you've highlighted, a lot of good practice taking place, which is evidenced in the report. And as you also said, it has already been considered by the executive panel. Any comments or questions for the Chief? I can't see any hands being raised. So in that case, we'll move to the recommendation, which is that we approve the publication of the annual EDI report for 2025-26 on the services website. Can I have somebody to propose, please? Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Gareth. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. So we move on to item number 11, which is the pensions arrangements for approval report from ACFO MacArthur. Diolch, Helen.
Diolch yn fawr. I'm pleased to present an update on the work that we're undertaking to consider the future arrangements for the governance and management of the Firefighters Pension Scheme. This item comes to members following consideration by the local pension board earlier this month, and the focus on the paper is on how we can strengthen the way pension functions across Wales. This is in direct response to the growing complexity and the pressures within the systems. The members of the local pension board endorsed the paper, noting the principle of improvement whilst retaining local accountability and engagement. The current governance framework is really clear and well established, and the Fire and Rescue Authority acts as the scheme manager, with the day-to-day delivery undertaken by the service. In turn, support is provided by the local pension board, which includes membership of both employees and employers, and this continues to provide a strong foundation for compliance and oversight. However, and importantly, the operating environment has changed significantly. The pension arrangements have become much more complex in recent years. This has largely been driven by legislative changes and national legal cases. This has not only increased demand on a relatively small team, but has required detailed specialist knowledge by the local pension board itself, who must maintain a high level of technical ability. Alongside this, ongoing legal matters, particularly those linked to age-related changes and retained firefighter entitlements, continue to require a very detailed case-by-case work. This has added to workload pressures and increased the need for specialist expertise and also a consistent approach, not only across the service, but with it across Wales. I'd like to assure members that we've already taken steps to improve our resilience. We've been collaboratively working with South Wales since about 2023, and that has included the sharing of technical expertise. And for us, that's delivered clear benefits in terms of consistency and support. Building on that, the local pension board has endorsed the proposal to go further and explore a tri-service approach across Wales. And the ambition is to improve the effectiveness, strengthen our resilience, and create greater consistency for scheme members. And this could range from closer joint working through to more formal shared arrangements, including the potential for a single local pension board structure in Wales. Early engagement with the Welsh Government has been very positive, and there's a clear alignment across all three Welsh services on the need for change. It's a really significant piece of work for us. It will require careful design, including the alignment of policies and the governance arrangements, and also a full consideration of the financial, legal and workforce implications. However, it also presents an opportunity for us in Wales to take a leading position in developing a more sustainable model for pension administration. I would like to emphasise that any changes will be subject to appropriate scrutiny, value for money assessment and equality considerations, ensuring that standards, including the Welsh language requirements, are maintained. Today, you're being asked to support the local pension board's endorsement of this direction of travel and to approve the establishment of a work stream to consider this further. Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to take any queries or questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments in relation to the report? Dafydd, bore da. Diolch.
Bore da, cadeirydd. Llongyfarchiadau i chi ar is cadeirydd eraill am gael eich ailethol. Mae jyst i gadarnhau o'n i yn yr cyfarfod arbennig o'r bwrdd pensiwn ar ei ystyried hyn, ac gafodd y cynllun i egluro'n 10 i'r aelodau, gafodd o gefnogaeth ymfrydol, dwi'n meddwl, yn yr bwrdd pensiwn lleol Gogledd Cymru. Dwi'n meddwl bod oedden ni yn efo rywfaint o bryder bod cydweithio ddim bob tro yn gweithredu'n effeithiol, a rydyn ni sôn am rei enghreifftiau eraill lle mae cydweithio heb fod yn bydd pawb lle. Ond beth sydd yma wedi cynllun i drio edrych i gydweithio draws Cymru mwyn sicrhau gwell gwydnwch a bod yn fwy cynaladwy, ond peidio wneud unrhyw benderfyniad ar y pwynt yma, cynllunio ac ymchwilio ar hyn o bryd, ac edrych i amddiffyn cyflogaeth a gwasanaeth lleol yn rhan o'r cynllun. Ac efo'r un bwrdd i Gymru, dwi'n meddwl bod hynny yn synhwyrol. Dwi'n meddwl cyn dod i fewn i'r gwasanaeth tân, swn i ddim wedi disgwyl un bwrdd i un cyflogwr. Bydda un bwrdd o draws Cymru yn sicrhau mwy arbenigedd, mae'n debyg, cynunol ar disgwyl, swn i wedi meddwl wrth gael dalen lan, ac hefyd yn cyd-destun y newidiadau i'r dyfodol, mae'n gwneud synnwyr cyffredin hefyd. Wedyn, dwi'n cefnogi'r argymhellion ac yn awgrymu i chi wneud hynny, ac dwi'n siŵr fydd Helen dod nôl yn ystod y flwyddyn efo diweddariad ar hyn.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Dafydd, am y diweddariad ac hefyd am eich sylwadau. I don't see any other hands being raised, so we'll move to the recommendation, which is members are asked to approve the local pension board endorsement of the proposal to establish a tri-service work stream for collaboration across Wales to consider opportunities to improve effectiveness and resilience of pension functions. Can I have a proposer, please? Diolch, John Brynmore, seconder. Diolch. And if you all show that you agree, diolch yn fawr, that's been passed. So we move on to item 12, which is the Social Partnership Duty Report for 2026-27, which is for approval. And I think it's ACFO Anthony Jones who's presenting this. Diolch, Ant.
Diolch, thank you. This report is presented to members to seek approval for the submission of the annual Social Partnership Duty report to the Social Partnership Council for scrutiny, and also for us to subsequently publicise it on our website. So the Social Partnership and Public Procurement Wales Act 2023 placed social partnership on a statutory footing in Wales and introduced a statutory social partnership duty for specific public bodies that came into force on the 1st of April 2024. That duty requires public bodies, including the authority, to seek consensus and compromise with recognised trade unions when setting wellbeing objectives, and also when making strategic decisions about the reasonable steps to be taken to deliver those objectives. As part of that statutory requirement, the authority must prepare an annual report, which is presented today, setting how it has complied with that duty. And this is the second iteration, the second annual report that we've presented on your behalf. The report must either be agreed with the authority's recognised trade unions or include a statement explaining why the agreement has not been reached. In this case, the requirements of the Act have been discharged through the Joint Consultation and Negotiation Committee, which Helen chairs, including the agreement of the content of the report itself. So members are therefore asked to note the statutory context and the work undertaken to comply with the Social Partnership Duty, to approve the annual Social Partnership Duty report for submission to the Social Partnership Council and placing on the authority's website. This will ensure the authority meets its reporting obligations under the Act and demonstrates its continued commitment to effective social partnership working with the recognised trade unions. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ant. And just for the information of members, members will be aware that both myself and the Chief had been regularly attending the Social Partnership Forum meetings that the previous Cabinet Secretary had chaired. We're still waiting from Welsh Government officials as to whether or not the new administration will continue those meetings. Any questions or comments from members, please? I can't see any hands being raised, so it's just a case of us approving this report, which is, as has been pointed out, we have to on a statutory basis provide annually. Gareth Sandlands, are you proposing? Diolch yn fawr. Seconder, thank you. Austin, diolch yn fawr. Want to show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. So we move on to item number 14, which is the Internal Audit Annual Report for 2025-26. And Helen, I think it's back to you for this.
Forgot my microphone for a second. Yes, it is indeed, Chair. I'm pleased to present this item, which is the Head of Internal Audit's opinion and annual report for 2025-6. This was considered by the Audit Committee at its meeting in June as part of the suite of papers for the full year governance. It supports the requirement to review the effectiveness of internal control and directly informs the annual governance statement. The report provides the confirmation by the head of internal audit that a substantial assurance opinion has been given, and that this means that there is a good system of internal control in place. And this supports the authority's objectives, and these controls are generally being applied consistently. This is a really strong position, and importantly, the work undertaken by internal audit during the year has not identified any significant weaknesses that would impact on the annual governance statement. The audit programme has been delivered as planned and focuses on the authority's key risk areas. In total, 21 recommendations were raised during the year, all of which have been considered and accepted by management with clear follow-up arrangements in place. Encouragingly, there's also been really good progress in implementing previous recommendations, demonstrating a positive control environment within the service and a good management response. There are some areas for continued focus, and in particular, we received a limited assurance in relation to equipment asset management, and work is ongoing to strengthen arrangements in this area. And we're focusing on improvements that are still required to fully embed our risk management arrangements. The report also confirms that the internal audit service itself operates in line with professional standards and remains fully compliant. And again, this provides further confidence in the robustness of the assurance provided. Looking ahead into this financial year, the audit work will focus on financial sustainability, organisational change, partnership working, and maintaining workforce capacity and resilience. I'd like to acknowledge the work of our internal audit colleagues and officers across the service in supporting this programme and responding positively to recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen, and apologies to members. I noticed that I've jumped item number 13, which we'll go back to next after we've concluded with this item. And as you say, this has been considered already by the Audit Committee. Any comments or questions for Helen, please? No, in that case, we'll move to the recommendation. Can I have a proposer, please?
Recommend it.
Thank you, Gareth, and a seconder. So thank you, Ian. If you all show the diolch yn fawr. So we will now consider item 13, which is the annual performance monitoring report for 2025-26. And it's back to you, Ant, for this one. Thank you.
Diolch, thank you. So this report is presented to the Fire Authority members to provide an overview of the services performance for the 25-26 financial year. So covering that period, 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2026. The performance measures are aligned to the 5 key principles set out within our community risk management plan and provide members with an assessment of the current performance, emerging trends and areas requiring continued focus. Overall, the report highlights a number of positive developments. Workforce attendance has improved with overall sickness absence reduced, despite an increase in total staffing. Both short-term and long-term absences have reduced indicating continued progress in our absence management. Prevention activity has also exceeded targets, with over 19,000 safe and well checks completed, and a greater proportion of that activity directed towards those higher risk households, reflecting the more targeted and risk-based approach that I know we've briefed members on previously. The report also identifies area of operational pressure and risk. Incident demand has increased during the year with 6,611 incidents attending, representing a rise against the previous year, but also the 3-year average. Fire incidents were a key driver of this increase, particularly in the first half of the year. While accidental dwelling fires have fallen to their lowest since 2017-18, we have unfortunately seen an increase in injuries and also the occurrence of 2 fatalities, which underline the continued importance of our vulnerability-focused prevention activity, particularly in relation to cooking safety and smoke exposure. Members are also advised advised to note the additional analysis requested by the service leadership team in relation to the daytime appliance availability and wildfire reporting. This analysis provides greater assurance on the operational resilience and supports more consistent interpretation of those performance trends over time. In light of the information presented, members are asked to note the content of the performance monitoring report and the key issues identified within. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. As you rightly say, a number of very positive things to pick up on the report, and from my perspective, especially to see the increase in the targeted sort of success in sort of the high-risk safe and well checks. That's very pleasing to note. Any comments or questions from members, please? Councillor Ian Hodge. Ian?
Thanks, Chair. given the energy companies seem to be promoting using appliances during the night, you know, for cheaper energy, do you think there should be more emphasis on making sure that when they do so, that they have proper means in place with regards to fire alarms, smoke detectors, etc.? And should we be trying to promote that residents do actually install these items when they start using appliances through the night? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodge. In many ways, the advice the energy companies are promoting goes against our advice in that we would recommend that members of the public and ourselves don't use appliances overnight, because that's obviously when you're most at risk, most vulnerable, in your lowest state of awareness. And unfortunately, you know, appliances are a proportionate cause of our incidents. So in many ways that does almost conflict with our advice. We always recommend that people use appliances when they are awake in the building, don't leave them unattended, and remain vigilant. We would obviously continue, as we do, promote the active use of smoke alarms and the fitting of smoke alarms, which we continue to offer as that free offer across all of North Wales, and as the data has suggested, we are exceeding our own targets in that regard. Yeah, we would continue to support the fitting of smoke alarms and the practices we support, which is relation to not leaving appliances unattended, whether that's during the day or certainly when you're most vulnerable at night.
Thank you, Ian. Any other questions or comments? I can't see any hands being raised. So the report is for noting. Can I have a proposer, please, and seconder? Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Mark. You can all show diolch yn fawr. So we move on to item number 15, which is the draft annual governance statement for 2025-26. And I think, Ant, it's back to you, is it?
It is indeed, yes, thank you. This report presents the draft annual governance statement for 25-26 and provides assurance to the authority that we are continuing to maintain effective governance, risk management and internal control arrangements in accordance with the statutory duties we are held under. The preparation and publication of the statement forms part of the authority's responsibilities under the Accounts and Audit Wales Regulations 2014 and reflects those principles set out in the Cyfarfod Solence framework of delivering good governance in local government. It supports the authority's wider legislative obligations, including operating in accordance with the relevant law and regulation, safeguarding public funds, securing economy, efficiency and effectiveness in the use of resources, and also demonstrating alignment with the Welsh legislation and policy expectations, including the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and the National Fire and Rescue Framework for Wales. The statement confirms that governance arrangements have continued to strengthen during 25-26, including enhanced oversight on risk, performance and programme delivery, and the establishment of a cultural board in response to the CREST advisory review. It also identifies the focused programme of improvements for 26-27 to ensure continued compliance assurance and organisational improvement. The annual governance statement, this draft annual governance statement was presented to the Audit Committee and the Executive Panel on the 15th of June. Members sought assurance on governance, management capability, safeguarding, performance reporting, stakeholder engagement, project management, and particularly around the training centre. So members are therefore asked to note the content of the annual governance statement for 25-26 and approve its submission to Audit Wales in line with our statutory requirements. Diolch yn fawr iawn, thank you.
Thank you, Ant. Any questions or comments, please? No, I can't. And as has been pointed out, it has been through the Audit Committee. So can I have a proposer to accept the proposal? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ian. Will you all show that you're in agreement, please? Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr. So we move on to the next item of agenda, which is the final annual statement of accounts for 2025-26. And I think, Elgan, is it back to yourself?
Good morning, Chair. I'm going to pick this one up, if I may.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you. It's the annual statement of accounts for 2025-26. And this, again, is a key stage in the authority's governance cycle. And these are required to comply with the account and audit regulations. It brings together, or the document in the pack today brings together our financial performance and position for the year and links directly to the annual governance statement that you've just received. Members will also recall that the draft accounts were presented to the Audit Committee for scrutiny and endorsed by the Executive Panel during the meetings of the 15th of June. Although the audit is not yet fully concluded, it is progressing well, and to date, the position remains stable and consistent with the version issued in your pack. I'm really pleased to confirm that there are no material issues identified to date that would necessitate the change of the overall financial position and performance presented previously to members. We continue to demonstrate strong financial management, identifying a small surplus of £121,000 for the year. We have usable reserves that have increased to 11.8 million, and they provide resilience against future pressures and indeed should we experience higher than anticipated activity during the year. We've also maintained a sound and stable financial position despite ongoing cost pressures. The audit work completed so far has resulted in only minor presentational adjustments and a small uncorrected item, none of which are material or impact the overall position. Subject to the completion of the remaining audit procedures, the expectation remains that an unqualified opinion will be issued. However, this will be formally confirmed once all audit work is fully complete. I'd like to thank Audit Wales colleagues and the Finance Department for their continued work in progressing the audit to this stage. In closing, members are being asked to note the current position, recognising that the work is still ongoing, and confirm the delegation of the final approved statement of accounts to the Executive Panel at its meeting in September. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. Any comments or questions from members, please? Dafydd, diolch.
Ie, jyst cadarnhau, dealltwriaeth fi o sefyllfa ydy bod mae'r datganiadau drafft wedi bod i'r Pwyllgor Archwilio sydd wedi nodi nhw. Oedden nhw'n ddrafft ar hynny amser, ond mae'r archwiliad i bob pwrpas wedi gwblhau, a does na ddim newid arwydd o cael i'r ffigyrau. Di Archwilio Cymru heb orffan i gwaith i gyrraedd rhoi certificate i ni. Wedyn, da ni ddim mewn sefyllfa i ofyn i chi gymeradwyo heddiw. Mae hwnnw yn ddyletswydd i'r awdurdod ac yn yr achlysur yma i sbario i hyn fynd ymlaen am fis ychwanegol yn yr Hydref. Dwi'n cefnogi argymelliad Helen i'r awdurdod dirprwyo'r grym i'r Pwyllgor Archwilio gymeradwyo'r fersiwn derfynol a derbyn adroddiad Archwilio Cymru yn mis Medi.
Champion. Diolch yn fawr, Dafydd. Any other questions or comments? No, I can't see any hands being raised, so can I have somebody to propose that we accept the recommendations in that case? Diolch, John Brynmore. Thank you, Jeff, if you all show your agreement. Diolch. So we move on to item number 17, which I think is back to you, Helen, then Treasury Management Update for 2025-26.
That's back to me. We've had a bit of a change. Apologies, Jay. So I'll take this one.
No problem. Diolch, Elgan.
Diolch yn fawr. Mae'r adroddiad hwn yn rhan bwysig o'n trefniadau llywodraethu ac mae rhoi sicrwydd i aelodau bod yn gweithgarwch, byntyca a busoddi wedi rheoli yn unol â chwr SIPFA a strategaeth rheoli trysorlus a gymorhadwywyd gan yr awdurdod ym mis Ebrill 2025. Mae'r adroddiad eisoes wedi cael ei ystyried a'i graffu gan y Pwyllgor Archwilio ar 15 o Fehefin ac fe gafodd y Pwyllgor sicrwydd bod y holl weithgareddau wedi chydymffurfio a dagonsyddion dablodus. Mae'r adroddiad felly yma heddiw mwyn i'r awdurdod ei gymorhadwyo. Rwy'n falch o gadarnhau bod y holl weithgaredd rheoli trysorlus wedi aros o fewn y terfynau a benwyd, ac ni fe unrhyw fethiannau gan sefydliadau ariannol lle oedd yr awdurdod wedi buddsoddi. Ar diwedd y flwyddyn, oedd bensyca awdurdod yn 15.8 miliwn, sydd yn is na'r flwyddyn flaenorol, ac mae'n bensyca net yn parhau yn is dan anen cyfalaf. Mae hyn yn danos ein bod yn parhau i ddilyn dull gofalus a darbodus o ariannu buddsoddiadau cyfalaf. Bod yr amgylchedd economaidd wedi parhau'n ansicr, mae'r portffolio wedi rheoli'n sefydlog drwy'r flwyddyn gyda chymorth gan Alun-Clws. Wrth edrych ymlaen, bydd angen bensyca pellach i gefnogi'r rhaglen gyfalaf, a byddwn yn parhau i fonitrau costau ariannu a farchnad yn ofalus. Felly, i gloi, mae'r adroddiad hwn yn rhoi sicrwydd bod y gweithgareddau rheoli trysorlus wedi cynnal yn briodol ac yn unol â strategaeth a gofynion. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr, Elgan. Any questions or comments, please? David, drosodd chi unwaith eto, diolch yn fawr.
Ie, gweld bod yr aelodau'n ddistaw ar hon, a maen nhw fel arfer yn ddistaw ar hon, dydach. Mae'r adroddiad yma'n sbio nôl ar y flwyddyn dwytha, ac mae y sefyllfa, fel mae paragraff 5 yn dweud, yn sefyllfa boddhaol. Da chi wedi derbyn fel adroddiad, fel awdurdod yr adroddiad wrth edrych ymlaen i'r flwyddyn gyfredol yma. Wedyn, dwi'n cefnogi'r argymhelliad i gymeradwyo'r adroddiad athro yma.
Diolch yn fawr. So, can I have a proposal that we accept the report, please? Diolch, Austin. Diolch, Gareth. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. We're already passing. So we move on to item 18. We're on the final stretch, members. We're on the final stretch now. Item 18, Standards Committee Annual Report. Matt, I think it's over to you for this one, please. Thank you, Matt.
It is. Diolch, Cadeirydd. So each year the Standards Committee prepares an annual report which is presented to the Fire Authority for information. This paper presents the annual report for the year 2025-26. The annual report was approved by the Standards Committee at their meeting on the 14th of April, and it outlines the functions that the Standards Committee undertake and provides information about the work that they have undertaken during the preceding year. That includes review of certain codes and protocols, considering findings from the Public Services Ombudsman Wales, as well as her annual report, and monitoring member attendance. Chair, the recommendation is that members receive and note the content of the report, of the annual report for 2025-26, and that a copy is provided to the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. I mean, basically, it is a report for our information. Unless there are any questions or comments, can we move straight to the proposals to accept recommendations, please? Thank you, Ian. Diolch, Anne. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. And then back to you again, Matt, for item number 19, please. Proposed updates to the Members' Code of Conduct and Local Resolution Procedure.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as I mentioned just then, codes and protocols are reviewed by the Standards Committee on a rolling basis. Each authority term, each one of those codes and protocols are reviewed. And in 2025-26, the Standards Committee reviewed both the Members' Code of Conduct and the Local Resolution Procedure and has recommended some changes. The paper summarises the matters considered by the Standards Committee and its recommendations. But in short, the proposed updates to the Code of Conduct reflect changes to the National Model Code. There is a provision within the code that members must carry out their duties and responsibilities with due regard to the principle that there should be equality of opportunity for all people, regardless of protected characteristics. Previously, the Model Code included a list of specific protected characteristics, whereas it now incorporates the protected characteristics as defined within the Equality Act 2010, as well as social economic circumstances. The updates to the local resolution procedure that reflect recommendations arising from a working group The recommended changes and reasons for those recommended changes are summarised in my report, Chair. Chair, the recommendation is that the Fire Authority approves the changes to both the Code of Conduct and the Local Resolution Procedure, and authorises the clerk or deputy clerk to amend the Constitution to give effect to those changes. Again, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions or comments from members, please? I can't see any hands being raised. In that case, can I have a proposer for the recommendations? Thank you, Ian. Seconder. Thank you, Jeff. Will you all show that you... Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. So we move on to on the agenda today under urgent matters, which is the draft supplementary remuneration report for FRAs. And I think, Gareth, you're giving a verbal update on this? Diolch.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Yes, apologies, it's a verbal update. We've received at very late notice a supplementary report from the Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru in relation to the remuneration of fire authority members following the change to governance that we discussed previously. Clearly, the model will be very different to the governance model that it exists now, and the Democracy and Boundary Commission is therefore proposing a very different remuneration pattern. They recognise that the three FRAs have a very different governance model. We have very different governance and committee structures. So they are suggesting a daily rate for both councillors and appointees to allow different workloads and different expectations. They've based their daily rate using the Welsh Government model for assessing the size and complexity of organisations, which take account of budget and staffing and the complexity of the functions that they deliver, which is the model that they use for appointing, for deciding the rates of pay for independent members of standards committees, for example. They are proposing rates that vary between £292 for an ordinary member up to £348 for the chair of the Fire Authority, which incidentally is broadly the same as the Scottish FRA. I think the thing to note about the suggestions is, or one of the downsides of the suggestions is that it's going to require a lot more paperwork, or it will require us as a fire and rescue authority to develop some conventions around how we work out what people are paid for meetings and attendance at the different functions that they undertake. There is a deadline for response. Having discussed the issue briefly with the Chief and the Section 151 officer, Chair, we believe a response is required. And we'd seek delegated authority for the Chief, for the Section 151 officer, and myself as clerk, in consultation with yourself, to send that response. And having done that, we then circulate that response round to the members of the authority. I appreciate, Chair, that's a fairly brief run through of a paper that you haven't seen, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Gareth. Just before I throw it out for questions from members, I mean, first of all, I would suggest that all members have cited the report and can feed back in response. And then what strikes me is a couple of things. Are we saying that sort of cabinet members will get an additional allowance based on the daily rate for attending FRA meetings? That would be one question, which to me doesn't seem to make sense. And the second one would be for the members that are appointed as additional members. So if they I can understand the daily rate if they're attending meetings, but what if they're going to visit fire stations and just getting out and about on the front line? Are they also claiming daily rate for that? I don't know if you can answer either of those questions. Diolch.
So I can, and yes, Chair, they are proposing an additional rate for cabinet members. Now, they for CJCs, for example, this is also a body formed from cabinet members. They don't currently receive additional payment for their duties, but I think the feeling is that CJCs exercise functions that are broadly the same as the constituent councils, whereas of course the Fire and Rescue Authority is a very different organisation with very different functions to the constituent councils. So yes, this is a suggestion, and it's a marked difference from where we are at present. It is a suggestion that every member of the Fire Authority, whether they be a cabinet member from a constituent council or a person appointed by Welsh Government, would receive the daily rate. The question you've asked in relation to visits, yes, at the moment so attendance at the paper indicates that attendance at training, they would get time for preparation prior to meetings as well as part of the quotes daily rate, and that's where some of those conventions or our own internal determinations might need to apply. Because otherwise there's the potential for expenses to be submitted for a wide range of functions, where some might be perceived to justify or warrant a claim for expenses and some might not. I'm very conscious about public perception and indeed the perception of others around that sensitivity, Chair.
Thank you, Gareth. It does sound as if there's going to be administrative difficulties with the system proposed, but that's just my personal opinion. Any questions or comments from members in relation to what they've heard, please? Thank you, Anthony.
So prepping for a meeting in a pub, for example, would not be acceptable.
I think some councils take the view that prep would equate to or be the equivalent of the length of the meeting itself. So if a meeting lasted 3 hours, somebody might reasonably claim 3 hours prep. I mean, the irony with that, of course, is that the more prep you do, sometimes the shorter the meeting. And people might take considerably longer to prepare something for something like the statement of accounts. It'd take a lot of reading. But actually, having done the reading, you might decide you have no questions because Elgan and the others and ACFO MacArthur have presented all the information so wonderfully that no questions need to be asked. But it could still take a lot of preparation and then have a very short meeting afterwards. So, yeah, it's a difficult one, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gareth Jones. Gareth?
Yeah, I was just thinking actually that if the role of being on the Fire and Rescue Authority board was part and parcel of a cabinet member's role, then it should be incorporated within the pay scale of the cabinet member, and that would just make life so much easier and so much more straightforward when it comes down to it, because a lot of cabinet positions take up an awful lot of time. So this role would have to actually be built into that time allocation.
Katina, I agree. Any other comments or questions? I can't see any other hands being raised, so it's just basically to draw attention to what is in the pipeline at the moment, then, Gareth?
And to ask for that delegation, Chair, that the three named officers and yourself, in consultation with yourself, prepare the response.
Okay. Thank you. I'd need a proposal for that. Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Ian. Will you all show that you're in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. That concludes today's short meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance and your contributions. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi.
Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch yn fawr, Dylan.
Diolch, David.